welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Welcome to Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I am your host, Jessica, and I'm really excited to welcome back Samantha Downing, who I feel like it's been a few years, right?
Yes, my last book came out 2 years ago. So almost exactly 2 years ago. So
But we're very happy to have you back and very excited to talk about Too Old for This, which is a book about a really nice old lady who wants to offer everybody tea and
yes,
talk
it
about their
is.
lives, right?
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. It's great
You're
to be back.
welcome. You're
And
welcome.
yes, Lottie Jones is the protagonist of Too Old for This, and she is a 75-year-old serial killer who is forced out of retirement. And that's that's it in a nutshell.
So, where did the idea for this story come from?
I actually was writing a different book about a much younger protagonist, and I wasn't really feeling it, wasn't really getting into it personally. And at the time, I was actually having some health problems of my own, which had affected my mobility and my ability to work out and live my normal life. And I had to really adapt and adjust to this. And I started thinking about that and switched my character to an older woman who also is in a period of adjusting and adapting to the new world, not only to her age, but also technology has changed, trackers, cameras, all sorts of technology. Her body has changed, her mind has changed. So I sort of channeled it all into this character, and that's where it came from.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. It's funny. I feel like women of a certain age are sort of having a moment now, both from what is it, Killers of a Certain Age, which is the Deanna Raybourn books, which are super fun. But with Lottie and just a few other books that I'm seeing, there are a lot of thoughts these days about women who are no longer in their prime or even past middle age and who they are as people and who they were as people and who Lottie was as a person was a serial killer.
Mhm.
And she was able to skirt the law,
Yes.
as one might say, and sort of migrate her life to this town where she was able to basically survive the best she could in hiding, and quell that urge to kill. And then the true crime phenomenon, the wave of true crime entertainment, sort of becomes a nuisance to her.
Yes,
In before, yeah, you go
uh,
ahead.
um, someone shows up at her door who wants to create a docu-series about her and how she had been accused of murders and then exonerated, and she sees Lottie as someone who was wrongly accused and then cleared of these murders. Of course, she was not wrongly accused, but they didn't have enough evidence against her, and the case was dismissed, or the investigation was dismissed. And there in no way does Lottie want this docu-series made. She lives under a different name. Her current friends don't know anything about this. She has a family. She has a son. She has a daughter-in-law. She has grandchildren. Basically, this would blow up her quiet little life. So you got to do what you got to do. You got to get rid of the problem. And Plum is the name of the journalist who has come to her door. She will not be dissuaded. No matter what Lottie says, she doesn't. And this is all in the first chapter, so I'm not giving anything away. And it was, and I think you're right about older women. I think older women it's been a long time since older women have been the main character in stories. I mean, you see it a lot in Miss Marple. Agatha Christie was writing Miss Marple, and arson. Then there was Arsenic and Old Lace. So there have been a few over the years, but now you're seeing them not as side characters, but as main characters. In part because of the aging population, in part because a lot of people are also taking care of their aging parents or aging grandparents. And we discovered miraculously that they're super interesting people. So, or they certainly can be in fiction. So the people seem to be enjoying them. I'm so happy to see it. And I read them all as well. So I'm really glad that people are, so far at least, people are enjoying Lottie and her crazy story. And because little old women can be anything, even serial killers.
Yeah, I think that that's again sort of one of the things that, we're looking at. And when you look at the time that Lottie came out of, she came out of the 70s and there was a lot of, sexual liberation and, all of these things in theory. In practice, you were still frowned upon if you were a single mother like she was back when her little itch began. And they went out and they did things and enjoyed life. And she's found sort of a way to do that with her little church group and her little cackle corner within the church group. And she just does not want to give that up. But the problem is that when bodies start to appear and people start to disappear, it's like a domino effect, especially now that everything is so interconnected. So you mentioned that the story had begun with a much younger woman. When you started thinking of Lottie as the protagonist, how did the structure of her family and her community sort of change?
Yeah, I had to create a woman who had an whole life. She really does have it. She's not living in a cabin like the Unabomber. She has a family, she has friends and a social circle, and she has lived for 75 years. So has a huge past. And I had to sort of create that and weave in the parts that were still relevant. Her adult son now, and her teenage grandchildren, and her daughter-in-law, and now her potentially new daughter-in-law. And that weaving all of these elements into it to create, a full person who also does this thing or used to do this thing in the side, and she doesn't anymore because being a serial killer is difficult. It's not the killing, it's getting away with it. And eventually you get tired the same way you get tired of working, and it took too much effort, and she wasn't as angry anymore. She used to kill because she was very angry about things, and everything sort of subsided and she was good. And then, the threat of having it all blown up, this life she created is what motivates her to go have to do it again and have to deal with all of the changes that have been made since, the 80s, when she was the 80s and 90s, which was well before the technology that we have here. So there were no smell phones, and let alone smartphones, and no cameras everywhere, and no tracking devices, and all of that was not as common and easy to get those kinds of things. So it's a big adjustment for her.
It's also kind of fun because you touch on a lot of things about, like you'd mentioned, like aging and even caring for aging parents, for all intents and purposes, aside from maybe trading in his wife for a younger model. Her son does seem like a decent person, who cares about his mother and would like to see her
Mhm.
safe. But some of the things that, you kind of touch on is it was scams almost, or how like people want to target elderly people because they hope that their mind isn't as sharp, or that they're desperate enough to do something. And it was interesting to watch because Lottie both plays with that a little bit because her mind is mostly okay. It's mostly that, but I mean, she is aging. But she plays with it a little bit and kind of uses it to her advantage a bit. But she also has other ghosts from the past that are coming back at the same time. So just the balance between maintaining the past and the present in her storyline, did you find that very difficult? Did you have to write the two things separately?
No, I don't ever write them separately like that. I try to weave it in as I go, so there's not I wasn't trying to do like a distinct before and after chapters, the way some thrillers do, because the timing wasn't as important because what's happening is that she's not actually being investigated for the old crimes. She's committing new ones, and those are the ones she's trying to get away with before anything gets out there or people figure out who she is, and those who do have to be dealt with. So it was more of a trying to tell her story. And I think of this may sound kind of strange but I'm looking at it like a top level down. When I write my books, I do use serial killing as a vehicle to tell a story. So in my first book, My Lovely Wife, I think of that as a thriller about marriage. That's the story I'm telling. This is a thriller about aging. And she is a serial killer, but she's going through all the things that a 75-year-old would, or some 75-year-olds at least. Not everybody's created equally. So in her case, her health is okay. She's somewhere in the middle. She's got arthritis. She's got a bad hip. She gets aches and pains. She's got some short-term memory loss, but she's not, she doesn't have full dementia or full Alzheimer's, and she doesn't have any horrible diseases, thank God. So she's kind of in the middle where her body's just aging and breaking down. So she's got all of these things to deal with, and how she is treated, how she is ignored, how she is, like you say, targeted by scams and whatnot. All of that is part of being an aging person these days. And all of that is sort of rolled into it while she is killing, while she is trying to do her thing.
It was kind of fun to watch, and it was again like I don't really want to give too much away
Hmm.
about everything that happens, but it was sort of fun. Like with each chapter, I was like, "Ah, Lottie, now you have something else to deal with." And it was really, really just fun. She was a fun protagonist to read. I was kind of rooting for her, even though she did really horrible things, and I felt bad for the victims. I felt bad for Plum. Like, I really do feel like she was very earnest in what she wanted, but that just wouldn't really do for Lottie. So I found Lottie to be a very likable, unlikable protagonist.
Yeah, I mean, I think of I try to make compelling protagonists, whether or not you like them or they're
I
likable,
like that
unlikable.
compelling protagonists.
Right. I want,
Messy. Yeah.
as long as they're interesting and compelling enough that you want to find out what they do next or find out what happens next. Whether or not you want to be friends with them, it doesn't matter to me. Whether you think they're likable or good or bad. I mean, Hannibal Lecter is terrible, but he's compelling. It's a compelling
People
character.
love him. He has a fandom, man.
Or even if you go to TV, Tony Soprano, compelling, not a good person in any stretch of the imagination, but not. So there are examples of this, and it's a little more difficult for a woman because it's tend to, we tend to get divided into good girl, bad girl, and you're all one or all of the other. But I'm trying to obviously create something more complex where she has her moments. She's compelling enough to keep you reading, which is my job as a writer.
For sure. And compelling enough that even when she's doing the bad things, I still cringe. And I'm like, Lottie, what are you doing? Please. Now this is going to make it worse for you.
And and there's also an element that she enjoys it a little. She enjoys the fact that she can get away with it, and she's so good at, I mean, she's really good at it. She's an excellent serial killer. She hasn't been, unlike many others, she has not been caught. Even back in the days when, in the serial killer heyday of the 70s and 80s, they were getting caught. So, and she did not. So sh- and that was before all the DNA and whatnot technology that we have now. They still eventually got caught, whether it was Gacy or Bundy or whoever.
Yeah, no,
It's
for
the
sure.
it's the ones we never caught are the ones that were really good, right?
So, just on the topic of female serial killers in general, did you do research into the ones that we know of at all? Or
A little bit. I
yeah.
mean, I mean, there are certainly a few out there, not as many as the men, but there are a few like the Eileen Wuornos, and a few others throughout history. They don't. Lottie doesn't quite have the same victim profile as a lot of serial killers. To her, it's more personal, so it's kind of whoever pisses her off, and when she has the opportunity. And if the opportunity presents itself with the right person, then, and sometimes if she'll wait for the right opportunity because she's patient, and she certainly has learned how to be patient and not jump the gun and get herself in trouble, which is a real asset when you're a serial killer. So, but it had less to do with her being um, just of the brand female serial killers than her just doing what she does. There's a huge amount of female serial killer books coming out now, a lot of them in reaction to the Me Too movement and female serial killers who are killing bad men, which is sort of the Dexter model. Dexter kills people who are worse than him. And it's the same type of model, a serial killer of a killer almost like a vigilante killer, getting rid of people that are worse, that are bad, that the justice system has not put in prison or whatever.
Yeah, and Lottie is definitely not that. She just wants to be left alone.
Yeah, she
You know,
really does.
yeah, and I did find it really interesting, because technically when you look at the profile of a serial killer, they have a type, be it a body type or
Hmm.
a specific gender or, something. And really the connection between with Lottie in her past is people who pissed her off,
Right.
which is more difficult to sort of thread together, although, there are people who make the connections, but obviously she gets away. And then I don't really want to get into too much about what it
Sure.
is at this point because it switches a little bit and I liked
Hmm.
that about it. Yeah, no, this was really good. I think people are really gonna like this one. I enjoyed just the way that it flowed was really fun. I felt really exasperated for her, as I mentioned before, when I'm like, oh, do you really want to do this? Is this the best idea? But it was really a well done book. Are you slowing down the pacing of your books now? Do you have something else you're working on at the moment?
I'm always working on something. I'm not sure what the next one's going to be. In the last couple of years, I moved across the country and things got, so I don't know. I don't have one coming out for next year. I don't have one done and coming out for next year. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how this one does. And you just never know. Who knows? It's been a little erratic lately. So we'll just see.
Yeah, no, I think I really think this one is going to be super popular. I think people are going to really, really enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I was able to get through it fairly quickly, which is great, especially as somebody who has kids who are always interrupting me. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope people enjoy it, and it's a wild ride.
As it should be. Once again, this was Jessica with Turn the Page podcast. My guest was,
Samantha Downing, author of Too Old for This.
and we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.